Welcome to Doing It My Way by Beata Matras, a podcast about project and product management, communication, brand, and IT. All these topics will definitely improve and have a positive impact on your career. So join me today, subscribe, and expect a new episode every week. Thank you.
Today we'll discuss the topic of ADHD and a little disclaimer in the beginning because we are not mental professionals. This episode reflects on our personal perspectives and is not intended as a medical advice. If you're struggling with mental health issues, please seek help from qualified professionals. And let's begin. As you may notice, I'm not Beata, but you are listening to the right podcast. My name is Michał. I'm the video editor of this podcast. And my guest today is a woman who came a very long way in her career, starting in administration, then working as a project manager, agile business analyst, product manager, and product owner. Recently, she decided to take a career break to focus on self-care and rediscover her passions. She hosts a podcast where she breaks down the projects and product management in IT industry. She speaks at conferences, and yet, all the while, she deals with ADHD. Please welcome Beata Matras.
Thank you, Michał, for this introduction. It's not usual for me that on the other side, usually I'm the one interviewing guests. So thank you for helping me with recording that episode. And thank you for your help all the time, because, I have a great support in you. So I'm really thankful for our collaboration. And I hope this episode will help someone who is also struggling with mental difficulties, because I think we should be more open about this topic. It's not like we're always, this perfect professionals not having any difficulties. So I hope it will help someone.
Thank you for the warm words. It's a pleasure to be here as a host for this podcast, a temporary one. So let's maybe start with the first question. Could you briefly say what ADHD is?
Okay, so ADHD is a neurodevelopmental disorder affecting focus, organization, and impulsivity. And, very often it's like misunderstood as maybe lazy person's excuse, or this little boy who is like always active and is running and is naughty, but it's real condition with specific challenges. And there are like 3 types of ADHD. The one is inattentive type, the other one is hyperactive type, and the next one is combined type. And I won the lottery. I got the combined type, so I'm both inattentive and hyperactive, which makes it sometimes like difficult to deal with, professional, but also like personal challenges. And if I will if we'll move to the common symptoms, these are, for example, disorganization, so struggling to keep tasks and priorities in order, which in product management career is like very important. So that's the first symptom. The next one, time management issue, so chronic procrastination and lateness, lack of focus. I'm, for example, like easily distracted, and sometimes, I have troubles completing tasks. Hyperfocus, which can be double-edged sword, because you can like focus on something so deeply that any, distractions is basically like making you very nervous. But also for hours, you are able to like focus on one task, often losing the track of time. The next one is lack of motivation, so difficulty like starting tasks, especially those that are not very interesting. The next one is like relationship challenges, so issues with inattentiveness and rejection sensitivity that are leading to difficulties in both professional and personal relationships. Impulsivity, acting without thinking, leading to social or sometimes financial issues. The next one is like emotion instability, so mood swings, and a constant need for excitement. Forgetfulness, very often I describe it as you wake up or you are like, a Dory from Finding Nemo. I don't know if you know this cartoon, but you're like this, lovable but forgetful fish that usually doesn't remember anything. The next one is restless and anxiety. So constant internal like anxiety, constant internal like nervousness. You don't know what you want to. You basically have like difficulties with calming down and like feeling in peace because you're always in this constant, just kind of weird anxiety, and it's a lot like, and it's very like often hard to like distinguish this restlessness and like anxiety with being excited. It's like very often mixed. The next symptom is like negative self-image. Well, you have, or people with ADHD have a really low self-esteem, mainly due to these challenges and symptoms that I mentioned before, because all these failures and like constantly feeling like you are running in a race, but in the same time there is like a lot of kind of barriers and a lot of difficulties, and you're also like running with your 2 feet tangled together. So yeah, that leads to a very negative self-image. Also, like relationship concerns are not helping to foster your self-image and like be confident. That can lead to social anxieties, to overall anxiety and also depression. The next symptom is also like huge fatigue, so mental and physical exhaustion from hyperactivity and poor sleep. Because when you're hyperactive, with your like physically hyperactive, but also in your like mind, because your mind is like constantly racing and the thoughts are like coming all the time. It leads to a huge exhaustion, and sometimes you don't even know what is the reason of this exhaustion. And the last common symptom is substance misuse. So there is like a higher risk of self-medication through substances like drugs, alcohol, and all kind of substances that are not really good for your health. So yeah, that are the common symptoms. And I have to say, like, I don't have like all of them. It's not that
That bad.
that bad. Although I wasn't diagnosed very early. I was diagnosed like recently, so I kind of managed to learn how to deal with myself and how to deal with some of the symptoms, and worked on them through my whole life, not knowing that this is actually ADHD.
Yeah, as you mentioned, I think from my understanding, ADHD can be treated as a spectrum. So you can have few symptoms and you can still have ADHD. You mentioned that you have been diagnosed recently. So when did you find out that you may have ADHD?
I always like sensed that something was off, because I was like overly sensitive and feeling like I was behind the glass, disconnected from others. So, I was very often with people, but in the same time, at some point, I felt like there is like something between us that that I cannot go through. Like I think this was this racing mind constantly like catching the kind of the kind of I don't want to say like feelings, but these kind of atmospheres, the comments, and like trying to connect those and analyze it on the go. And I think the turning point was actually about a year ago. I began experiencing social anxiety and physical exhaustion. I'm constantly like exhausted. I'm constantly like scared of people. My rejection sensitivity was way too big. I mean, I never felt like that before. And it was, and you know, through this year, I kind of tried to like come back to my usual day to day, but something was not working. Something was like not before. And I felt that I might struggle with, I don't know, maybe this is like a huge anxiety. Maybe this is like a depression. Maybe this is burnout. But, you know, before I didn't have that kind of experiences, so I didn't know. So after a couple of months of intense working and trying to get back to my usual routine, I decided to go to the specialist and ask for, you know, help. And it wasn't like, you know, the first specialist actually told me that it might be ADHD. I needed to like dig deeper, because one disclaimer, I was before like 3.5 years in a like traditional therapy. It was CBT therapy. And, you know, even if I had all this self-awareness, even if I had the kind of tools to deal with that, I couldn't like move through this kind of glass and again like connect with people. And my traditional therapy wasn't focused on ADHD or like a specific state, like for example depression or anxiety. It was more focused on kind of relationship building skills, I want to say, or like generally like relationship building.
It wasn't like that you thought that you may have ADHD, but you're trying to deal with other symptoms. It's often like that you're getting treatment for one disorder or disease or whatever, while ADHD can be combined with other symptoms, other disorders. And sometimes it's really hard to catch that you may have ADHD. Especially that this is a quite new topic, especially in Poland, and there is not many specialists that may help you.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes, you know, even the specialist can, let's say, not diagnose you properly. You know, sometimes I heard that you're just young. You know, it will pass. Yeah, in 5 years you'll get better. Right now we can like give you some kind of medication to like balance your moods. But I was like, but I don't want the medications to balance my moods. I want to learn how to balance my moods by myself. It's not like I'm going to right now have difficulties with like managing my life and spend the next 5 years waiting for my mood to balance. Like, no. And the other kind of difficulty for me is actually that I don't really, I never wanted to like take medication. And it's not like I do not advise taking medication. It was always like a huge fear in me to like start taking the medication because of, you know, I saw in myself that I might be not very prone to substance misuse, like nicotine, for example. So, you know, so I was like afraid if I will like start taking medication, but will not learn on the go how to manage specific symptoms, I will stay with it for my whole life. And I will not like learn the skills that are needed to actually manage it without medication. But, you know, you might be in a condition. I'm a very privileged person. I have to say that. Very privileged. I have a lot of time for myself. I had a very good job. And I had also a space in my personal life to kind of experiment with, you know, ways and methods, traditional or kind of alternative methods, like, which I mean, like, you know, yoga, meditation, affirmations, all these kind of stuff that could potentially like help me to manage my struggles. Yeah. Yeah. And I also had this, you know, I had a therapist who was advising me how can I deal with certain symptoms.
Okay. And what was the feeling when you was diagnosed? It was kind of relief.
So first, yeah, it was kind of relief. And then it was like that, okay, so I know what I'm fighting against, so I can deal with that right now. I just need to like educate myself well. And I'm going to like, make the list of how to deal with this or how to deal with that. Yeah, I bought like 7 books about ADHD in one go. Talking about the symptoms and impulsivity. Of course, I didn't read all of them. I finished with like 3 or something, and the rest is waiting in the queue or like in forever. And yeah, and then I started to read more about this ADHD, and I started to kind of make a list of my struggles, and also like reassess like my kind of life, how I dealt with that. There was also like the period when I was crying a lot, because I was like, okay, so my whole life I was taking care of myself and like struggling with something that I didn't know before. What if, there would be like earlier diagnosis, maybe, my life could be better or something like that. But at some point I kind of said, like, said to myself, like, oh, it doesn't make sense. I mean, you cannot change the past. At least that's one thing that I learned through the therapy, that you cannot change the past, so you focus on now and on your future. And yeah, and I'm like still educating myself on the certain symptoms and how so far I was dealing with that, and also being thankful to myself, that I learned a lot on the journey. Maybe it wasn't perfect. Maybe there was like a lot of failures. Maybe I hurt myself or other people a lot of times, but also like I started to like um, kind of more self-accept myself, I would say, like give myself a credit for, okay, girl, you did a good job. I mean, you're in fairly good situation, even if you're not hired anywhere like right now, because you needed to take care of yourself first. I think, yeah, that was it. Like, okay, I did a good job actually. Yeah. Like, so I moved to the self-acceptance, because that's the only way I could like release myself from this a kind of grief journey, yeah, or grief cycle, and move on.
Well, thanks for sharing this. I'm wondering, because you base your career on project and product management. From my perspective, it can be very challenging because the projects last for maybe a couple of years. Was it a huge challenge for you to stay motivated during those long periods of projects being managed?
Yes and no, actually, because in a very like young age, when I was like already during studies or during like high school, I learned that I need to write a lot, and I know where I have to be in a certain hour to like not get late, to like to actually remember about everything. Yeah, so from the very young age, I kind of had these compensation strategies, because I was also like always like very like both like ambitious and hardworking. I was observing my parents, how hard they are working, um, and and I felt like, okay, so I need to do the same. So I was like always looking for the solutions for like certain difficulties that I had in my life. And with the project and product management, like first like project management, it was my hyper focus for some time. Generally, like learning was my hyper focus. And I didn't struggle for the first like, year or something, because it was like something new, something exciting going on. But when I reached a moment that everything was like in peace, everything was like, I created the processes, I created this kind of streamlined way of working. I started to feel like bored sometimes. And because of that, I was like finding myself like kind of additional ways to use my energy and like become motivated. So, for example, I was looking for additional training. So I was looking how to help the communities at work to just, spend this amount of energy that I have in my legs and mind, as I call it, and to stay motivated. So I was looking for the kind of new ways to excite myself, even if my initial day to day wasn't very challenging. Yeah, because at some point I think we all experience that it becomes a little bit boring. So I was just doing, all the things around also to kind of manage that. Yeah, that was it. But for a longer period of time, I mean, the longest for my last company, I was the longest with almost 4 years there. But I was changing the positions during that time. So always looking for a new challenge, always, wanting to move fast. Yeah. Yeah. So that was it. So I think, I choose a perfect career for a hyperactive person. Yeah.
You talked about the challenges in your work. Can you add something to this? Would you like to say more about how does ADHD influence your work?
This is a kind of a good way of being hyperactive is that you can do a lot, but it can quickly burn you out when your excitement is gone. Yeah. And when you do too much, you also feel burnout when you're super young and eager to learn new things all the time. You kind of don't have maybe that self-awareness that you're burning yourself out and your body feels all this stress that you put on yourself. Self-organization, well, I was super organized at work because people could see I'm a little bit mess because I'm here and in here and there, but I had this kind of system, especially that I was taking notes all the time and making massive amounts of notes on every meeting because I also tried to focus. But the main struggle became relationships because of this kind of rejection sensitivity and emotional volatility. Yeah, it cost me a lot of stress because, project management and product management is mostly about working with people. And when you get feedback that is not very, not provided in a very empathetic way, and also this rejection sensitivity caused me to focus on the negatives rather than the positives. So I kind of always focused more on negative aspects of the feedback rather than positive. Even this hamburger style feedback when someone is telling you, oh yeah, you're great in that, and I was oh fuck, they are going now we are going to this kind of meet. And even if it wasn't a big deal or something, I always struggled with getting that feedback because I was constantly afraid of the rejection and what to do with these emotions after that. That cost me a lot of issues with professional settings. And I mentioned also about, this note taking when you're inattentive and have not the best memory, right now, you need to make more effort to actually remember and analyze the meetings.
You need a second brain.
Yeah, you need a second brain, and I kind of created that second brain on paper for me. Or right now, with all these AI tools, it's also easier for me to handle the meetings that I should be present, completely present and focused on. But for some reason, for example, not. There's also one thing, people pleasing. You're so afraid of being rejected that you are trying to please everyone and be everything to everyone. But in the long term, it's very draining, and it's easy to forget about yourself and self-care and your life and everything which is important.
Yeah, you mentioned a few things about work. I'm wondering if do you think this is the good idea to share that you have ADHD in the workplace?
That's what I'm scared of. That's one of my fears right now. I don't know. There are some common misconceptions about ADHD in the workplace. Yeah, um, that maybe people can see me right now as a, again, not reliable and predictable, or also like maybe rude, maybe that I want to be in the center of the attention. There is like a lot of kind of risks connected to that. But I thought, like, if I'm not going to share it, I will stay my whole life, behind the mask, and have to always like tell everyone and tell like, and kind of explain myself, or maybe like more keep it to myself that I struggle. And I'm a little bit tired,
Mhm.
with this image of being always ready. I mean, I learned to be ready most of the times, but sometimes I just have this kind of difficult days when um, a really low mood and overthinking gets me, and then it's like hard to deal with it by yourself.
I think there is a common myth about ADHD that it's not real thing. And there are still some people that may think that you've made this up just as an excuse. So that's, I think, a pretty complex thing. Do you think that the companies can do something with this to make the workplace a better place for neurodiverse people?
So yes and no. I mean, companies can support neurodiverse individuals, but neurodiverse individuals who are aware of that also need to take care of themselves. This is like, always not uh, like a one part responsibility. It's like two parts collaborating together. Yeah. So I can speak on like my example because, as we mentioned before, neurodiversity is a spectrum. So there are like very different needs from neurodiverse individuals. But one important thing is like psychological safety. So to kind of create the environment where neurodiverse individuals feel accepted and understood. So either it's like providing a training, for example, about neurodiversity. What is that? So people are like more aware of what we as neurodiverse individuals are dealing with. Also, this kind of, rituals and kind of breaks to maintain focus are important for us. So either it's like sitting in a one place, in this particular place. I know that it might sound like weird for most people that you are just, attached to the desk that, for example, is like taken, but sometimes it's like once you don't have like your usual kind of scheme. I mean, at least for me, it works like that. But I was speaking with different neurodiverse people, and they had the same. That they need like a specific kind of place to be able to like focus and function during the day. The structure helps me a lot. Neurodiverse people might don't like structure, but for me, for example, it's like essential for staying organized. And as I mentioned, for example, the simple thing like this desk, or for hyperactivity, a standing desk is like my savior. Actually, like even like recording this podcast, it's possible thanks to having like a standing desk. And I mentioned I'm super privileged to have all these things. But I also worked for that for a long time. So that's how I learned also to kind of manage my circumstances. And I think like we're still able to work in the office, but definitely we will not focus so well as at home, for example, in our usual setting, when we are struggling with neurodiversity or are in the spectrum of neurodiversity. And the main important thing, I think, for individuals having that is that you need to also like advocate for yourself. Yeah. I'm not a great example of advocating for myself because I'm always trying to like make everything by myself, actually. But it's not working in the long run. You need to ask for help. And if something is really important for you and will help you to work more in peace, but also like be productive, just, ask for that. And for the co-workers, like empathy from other people is also important, from other people, but also for other people. So both like neurodiverse and neurotypical people need to understand that not everyone thinks or operates in the way we do. So yeah, clear communication about your needs, about your struggles. Yeah, that's it, I would say. There is no like perfect solution.
Yes, this is a very wide topic, but I think it's worth to discuss and talk about it loudly, so other people can learn from each other. I think we covered the work part of the ADHD, and could you maybe say something about how do you deal with ADHD in your daily life, like outside of the workplace?
I have a lot of strategies. Probably I will not mention like all of them because, I wasn't diagnosed when I was a child. So I had this kind of need and like also like energy and kind of internal um, internal yeah, I think there was like an internal need that, okay, I need to like, be strong, and like if I can't do something, I need to find a way to actually like deal with that. So for example, for energy management, I never understood it in the past why I need, for example, like power nap during the day or like this kind of quick meditation session. Yeah, I mean, it may sound like weird, but sometimes, there is like 12 or there is like even 2 p.m. and for like 20-30 minutes, I just need to lay down and just make this quick power nap. Yeah. Or yoga nidra, for example. It helps me because I'm like scanning my body, and it's like 15 minutes. So it relaxes me very well and helps me to slow down in my head, like in my brain. Physical movement is like very important to like manage your energy and manage your either hyperactivity. For women, it's mostly like hyperactivity in your mind. So that's very important for us to, take care of this part of our life, and a kind of routine that, for example, in the morning, like helps me to stay kind of, stay stable in case of my dopamine levels. Yeah. Even right now, for example, when I'm recording that podcast, I'm moving a lot with my legs. You can't see that, but thanks to, this standing desk, it's helping. And during, for example, also recording the episodes, I have like my certain ways to manage my energy and manage my focus, like, um, yeah, like standing on the one leg, for example. I know it might like sound weird,
But it works.
but it
You're
works.
always in
Yeah.
the middle of the frame, so good job.
Yeah. People don't see that. And that's funny what I'm doing with my legs, with my hands when I'm recording these episodes to basically like stay focused. Sometimes noting also helps. There's like no perfect recipe for managing these kind of disorders. You need to like find your way of dealing with these symptoms. So I recommend like keeping a journal at first, and kind of tracking what happens after in certain days. What are like the emotions that you're feeling, why are you feeling like that? Because sometimes it can be because, for example, of the social interactions, but sometimes it's not social interactions. It's more like what you, for example, ate or how you slept or so on and so on. Yeah, but it's manageable, I would say. And one more thing is that that is like actually making a huge impact. I didn't believe in that before, and I was like, no, it's like very spiritual and so on. Is meditation and breathing exercise and exercises. It's sometimes it's 15 minutes, sometimes it's 25 minutes, sometimes it's like 30 minutes. It's not like how long you're doing. It's about like being regular in that breathing exercises. I got to know them, during like yoga sessions. That also like was helping me to manage my mood swings and this kind of self acceptance to my body and all these things that were difficult for me when managing ADHD, and also like kind of reconnecting with yourself. And also, yeah, that also helps you to reconnect with yourself. But these are like my ways of dealing with ADHD and the symptoms that are most painful for me. So these are like my ways, but you need to find your ways of dealing that. If I want to stay organized during my like private life and like also like let's say work, I'm also using calendar reminders to stay on track, and like Kanban boards, for example, to like manage my tasks, or even like making a plan before the day so I will not forget about anything. I'm just writing a lot, and to the point that some people might think is like excessive, but I need to do it to actually remember what I want to do, and to be able to like manage my day to day. Yeah, it's helping me. Yeah.
Yeah, it may seem a lot, but I think there's a little habits that you learn and that can be made automatically later when you get used to those. So I think it's not so hard.
Yeah, Michał, it might sound like there is like a lot, but it's not like I'm doing, certain things like every day. I mean, if I had this kind of space for doing like every day, for example, yoga and running, and I was doing that, but usually, all the time, once you do it, just one thing, yeah, just one thing for yourself, like every day, it becomes like gradually turning into the routine, and then you don't remember about it. But if someone wants to like start managing the symptoms and being more balanced, I would say, and like in peace with work and life in general, I think it's like important to like start with self-awareness, with like building that, okay, so what are like the worst symptoms that I cannot deal with, and then slowly looking for the strategies that could help me with managing that, and trying and failing, because I felt like a lot of times until I found kind of the ways that are helping me. So, and I started small, first it was like just go out in the morning to take out the trash. Yeah. So, not going to the gym like right away, because in the past it wasn't working, to just pushing myself too much. No, now it's like more small steps. Yeah. Small steps. And if you fail, if you reach to the point that, it's very difficult, you just start small again. Yeah, very very small. So not 1 hour of exercise, it's like 10 minutes, 5 minutes of exercise, or just a simple walk around the building. Yeah.
Yeah, and we slowly approaching to the end of our conversation. If you could give one key piece of advice for someone who recently discovered that they have ADHD.
So I would say, don't panic. I mean, ADHD isn't like a life sentence. And you can change like certain behaviors. You can change this kind of negative talk, or like what you're struggling with an effort. Yeah, I have to say that needs an effort, but it's like possible to be more balanced and like self-accept. The question is if you want to change something. Yeah, the question is whether some things are like just difficult for you and you don't want to live the way you lived in the future, or just now. Yeah, so don't panic, this is not a life sentence, and start small. I think these are my main my main advices. And yeah, and self-accept. I mean, accept yourself. Yeah, you just need to like yourself and take care of yourself.
Yes, of course. And what are the upcoming projects or goals that you are excited about?
Yeah, so I'm working I'm working on moving to a different country. It's a kind of convoluted process, but I'm excited about it. And yeah, I hope that till the end of this year I will move and um, challenge myself, but also like confirm that the strategies that I developed so far can work in like different environments, and maybe, also like find how I can like adapt myself better. And yeah, this is what I'm excited about, actually. And like, of course, developing this podcast, I recorded a lot of episodes this year, and I can't wait to, record like a final 50-second episode, to just prove to myself that I'm able to do that. Yeah. Because you know me, how it's like a
Very long.
difficult journey, especially when you have ADHD. And, for a couple of times already, I thought like, okay, maybe I'll leave to India to become a yoga teacher, or, I can just run away somewhere to, start being whoever. So yeah, ADHD has a lot of different. So because of ADHD, I think there is like a lot of different interesting ideas coming to my mind every day, and yeah, I'm just trying to be more consistent and reliable, and that brings me actually a lot of fun.
And the last question: where can listeners can connect with you?
So you can find me, in this podcast. You can find me on LinkedIn, my website, Instagram, TikTok. I'm almost, I think, everywhere, and I check this regularly. So if you have any questions, reach out to me. Yeah, and I'll try to, respond if you feel that you want to talk about ADHD, about your struggles, or talk about product management. I'm always open for a tea, even on like online one. And yeah, and just a good conversation.
So thank you, Beata, for sharing those personal things. It was great to be here as a host for this podcast, and all the best for you.
Thank you, Michał, and thank you for your help and support, and thank you for, helping me to organize it and feeling safe. Yeah, thank you for making that atmosphere of feeling safe. Thanks for joining me on another episode of Doing It My Way by Beata Matras. If you enjoyed this episode, please do not forget to subscribe. Remember, this podcast is a dynamic journey, and your feedback is very welcomed. Connect with me on social media. I would like to hear your thoughts, questions, and topic suggestions. And stay tuned for upcoming episodes. And until next time, keep doing it your way.